I can still remember what it was like the first time I stepped into a race car. The sound of the engine, the anticipation, but I never could have imagined where this journey would take me. My father once told me that racing is just like life. You have to stay on your toes, because you never know what's around the next corner. Bill Watson, and this is my story.
This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
Much to the dismay of Shawn Mcbeth, drop points extinguish the hopes of a potential championship. But champions never stop fighting and never give up. Today's race offers a chance to assert himself and carry momentum into the next season. Last round saw himself and Modoff fighting for the win all the way to the checkered flag. So will we see more of that thrilling action today? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 10 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing eSports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, Daytona sees action from these GTE cars in the real world as IMSA's GTLM class, so what's the action going to be like on this incredibly fast oval?
Well, the Daytona Roval Dro is always quite a unique course, especially because of the long straightaways around and the banking around here where these GT cars are flat out can lead to lots of drafting, lots of packs. Normally it serves as a very exciting season opener for IMSA series, as well as many various sanctioned league and hosted series on the iRacing service. However, today it's a bit of it's the season finale, so it'll be interesting seeing how these drivers will take it on as a bit of a sprint race. You know, some drivers racing for points, and some who maybe might not be fighting anybody in the points championship, just here to try and get a W in the column before the end of the season. 3.56 miles in length, that's 5.7 kilometers, 12 turns, racing here 45 minutes today. Let's give you an idea of what a lap around here is like.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC4 GT, so let's do a lap around Daytona. Right away, you've got the difficult braking for turn 1 to tackle. The transition off of the banking can often unsettle the car, plus you're turning and braking most of the way into the corner. Despite all this, it's still one of the most popular places to pass on the lap. As we weave through the little chicane, bring the car back to the left and you'll be braking for the International Horseshoe. You might sometimes see passes into here when the opportunity presents itself. There's a little access road off to the left of the exit too, which because it's paved, it's all fair game to use when getting the power down. We'll drift it back across, and in these GTE cars, the kink is easily flat out. But the best racing line is to hug the car to the left side to give yourself a nice entry into the Western Horseshoe. The tricky thing here is the way the corner tightens in the middle. It makes hitting the apex a bit of a pain. Turn 6, which will be the last one of the infield section, is probably one of the most important of the lap. Failing to get a good exit here will cost you a bunch of time on the oval portion. Plus, you'll want to protect yourself from attack by preventing the car behind you from getting as much of a slipstream as possible. Jumping ahead to the bus stop, it's going to be tempting to make an overtake into here, but any side-by-side racing is terribly risky and often doesn't end well. Once again, because we'll be flat out for a while, getting on the throttle smoothly and early will pay big dividends. And just like before, draft battles are probably going to be playing out all day. But as we bring it to the line at the Tri-Oval, you've now hopefully finished a lap around Daytona. So you see a bit of a truncated lap around Daytona, and, well, as always, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. The Simulation Motorsports Association is a sim racing platform created by experienced racers. Established in 2015 and supported by the International Sim Racing Federation, the association is bringing together organizations and communities to further promote sim racing globally. Concentrating on all sims worldwide, they offer a focused opportunity for sim racers to compete with each other. They also provide consultancy services to this growing esports world. SimMSA offers solutions for racing simulator requirements and custom-built simulator parts, as well as complete customization and upgrading of existing simulators. You can find them at SimMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Frazier Deeter. Frazier Deeter is a nationally recognized PCAOB registered CPA and advisory firm headquartered in Atlanta with thousands of clients globally. It provides a wide range of services, including tax, audit, advisory, internal controls, and transaction support to achieve each client's unique financial goals. With offices in Alpharetta, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Nashville, and Tampa, Frazier Deeter has consistently been named a best of the best CPA firm by Inside Public Accounting and is ranked among the top 60 largest CPA firms in the United States. You can find them at FrazierDeeter.com. Sam, we mentioned it at the start that this has been a fight between Modoff and Mcbeth, but unfortunately, as we take a look at the points battle, it seems that it is not as close as we had hoped last round.
Yeah, and here you can see the championship has been wrapped up. And I apologize, I'm actually experiencing a bit of a technical difficulty here, Joe.
Yeah, there on screen, 18 points may separate Mcbeth and Modoff, but you have to add the 18 points to those 29 points, and that adds to more that you can earn in a single race, which means Modoff sealed it with his second place last round. Espinoza has been quietly coming forward to challenge for things. He's in third. And then Hefner climbs up 2 points with his podium last week, 2 positions rather. Eisler, of course, drops 1 due to that, with Hefner getting into the mix. Let's take a look at the Teams Championship. Sam, what about that one?
Well, you can see it's a little bit spread out here to the Americans at the Speedworks Racing Team North have a 28-point lead, so it's sitting quite comfortable there over Coca Modiclar Racing Team. Rounding out the podium there, these top three teams really jumped away from the rest in the standings. The Speedworks Racing Team East rounding out the top three in points. But Speedworks Racing Team West have also done well. They distanced themselves a little bit from Team Bushfink Racing. But you see, both of those teams, still quite a bit of points up for grabs, because neither of them have, a lot of drop points to give up. So whatever they are able to pull up today will count. Who knows what we'll see further back on there in the points.
Today's race will be the finale, as we keep saying, here at Daytona, and they can choose from 4 different cars: the Porsche, the Ferrari, the Ford, or the BMW. Now, the race distance today is their sprint format, 45 minutes, and fuel might be slightly tighter, but still pretty wide open, and it will require 1 pit stop. They've obviously restricted that fuel because the real cars can do much more than 45 minutes. They do have an incident cap at the bus stop. That could be a problem, because it's easy to get those incidents racked up heading through there. It can be a little tight. They have no spare car if they get any sort of damage. Sam, this is a track that I have to imagine damage will certainly be of a big concern because of the straight line speed.
Yeah, not only that, Dre, but you mentioned tight pit window, and also it's a short race. You really can't afford anything bad for you to happen today. I know normally we see endurance races take place here where, you can have a bad pit stop, or, even be involved in a spin or something and still be in the shot of a podium, if not the victory. That's not going to be the case here today. If you want to win, you've got to have a clean race, especially considering the fact that we don't have cautions in this series.
Absolutely. Now, you can see this race as you do every week here on the iRacing eSports Network. Make sure and go to their YouTube page when you get the opportunity. Click subscribe. It's a big red button that says so. And then you'll get all of the precision racing leagues, both here with the GTE cars and with the Radicals each week. Of course, Radicals changing soon. We'll talk more about that in another broadcast. Qualifying is underway. Right now, Zach Hefner, who was third last week, is currently on the pole, but look at the gap, Sam, back to Acosta. This could swing either way.
Yeah, it definitely could. Now, these drivers are all out there on track together, so some of these drivers who have performed better in qualifying might have just caught a good slipstream. Unfortunately for Acosta, I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting held up by that orange car in front of him right there. And the other thing that makes qualifying here difficult, of course, is the lap time. It's so long around. These drivers, 1 minute 40 seconds, they're getting around this circuit. And so already, even though we've got over a minute left on the clock, the drivers are pretty much, when they cross the line, they'll be starting their final timed lap. And I almost wonder if Acosta's not having a good lap here. He might want to back off the car in front and give himself a bit of clean track next lap around. And you see Acosta's actually dropped to third now.
Yeah, that's because Jean-Marc Tremblay has now taken the pole by a 10th above Hefner. It is still tight for second place. There we see the Canadian coming through the infield. So this is going to be his final lap around. Costa's just coming around to start, so he'll get one more, depending on how this one goes. The number 19 was not faster that time by. It was a 1:41.7 for him, so he's definitely got to hustle.
And even if that was his fastest lap, that would have him about 6 on the grid right now. These times are quite tight, which is, saying something considering how long a lap around here is. The driver in 23rd and last right now in qualifying is Manuel Paredes, but he's doing that with a 1:44.0, so less than 3 seconds. Now the checkered flag is out, so these drivers finishing off their laps. James LeBond that doesn't go faster.
Zach Hefner, who currently sits in second ever since Jean-Marc ran that quick lap, is coming around the 1-2-3, came in with a splash. Let's see if he can get himself one more win before the season is over. At least one more pole, maybe. He crosses the line, and that lap, unfortunately, does not count for Hef. Let's see.
With the times being so tight, keeping an eye on everyone in the field, if they pick up a few tenths, they could jump up a couple of rows.
Leif Peterson, currently sitting in 6th, is coming around. He's going to finish the lap soon. Just went through the bus stop. The 913 actually giving a nice tow to Uribe, and he doesn't want to anymore as Uribe is going to go on by. He's sitting in 11th position. You see Hef on screen was abandoning, well, not abandoning, but coming off the track since he's finished his qualifying. Uribe also looks like he doesn't want to finish, so Abner Acosta, who is now in 3rd, comes across the line, also doesn't count for that lap. And I think that actually might be it. Indeed, that is all of our drivers here for the qualifying, having finished for the final round of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Let's go through your starting order. Jean-Marc Tremblay, I have to say, something of a surprise pole for Jean-Marc. He's usually up there, but not the fastest. Zach Hefner will be taking the outside of the front row with Abner Acosta starting P3. Shawn Mcbeth, who has missed out on the championship but has a chance to try and take another victory. His 3rd in a row. Will be starting from 4th position. Andre Espinoza starts P5. Then it's Leif Peterson on the outside of row 3. Tyler DeZube in 7th and Josh Daniels in 8th. Row 5 will be Christian Eisler, who is good in practice but certainly not good in qualifying. And Pete Broaden will round out the top 10. Sam?
Yep, all of those within a second of pole, such as the case for our driver starting from 11th place. And that's Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. Corey Clark will be starting alongside him, and on row number 12 will be Rodrigo Munoz and Kenneth Rodriguez. Takeshi Gito will be starting from 15th place ahead of Tyler Guillemette. James LeBlanc will be starting 17th ahead of Hugo Galaz, and rounding out the top 20 will be Joey Trungell and Mike Richer. Rounding out the field will be Lucio Almonacid Vargas ahead of Cristobal Valenzuela. Manuel Paredes will be starting on the last row ahead of Gary Schilling. Gary didn't turn a time. He did get out there on track, so it does look like we will have a 24-car field.
And fans wondering why we do not see Carl Modoff in all of this. Unfortunately, even though he's taken the championship, he had work obligations, so he won't be able to take a metaphorical victory lap, if you will, out here at the road course of Daytona. So we're seeing them line up on the backstretch. They'll take about half a lap, and then we will get to go racing for the final round for 45 minutes for the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. They, I believe, will be extending the races next season, where the sprint format will go up to 60 minutes, from what I understand. I'll try and get confirmation that that is fully correct before we tell you so, but that will be the case. You can see they've recently updated Daytona here on the iRacing service. The grandstand's now gone, sadly, on the super stretch, with a bunch of the billboards now put in place. So we wait for the Porsche pace car get ready to take off. Sam, one of the things that I guess these drivers get to experience that NASCAR tends to experience here is that pit entry. I get the feeling that that could make a difference in the pit stop cycle on who can maximize coming in really hot from a high rate of knots in there.
Yeah, you only have to do it once, but you can lose a lot of time if you do it incorrectly. Obviously, the pit road speed limit, with this being such a wide pit lane, it's not too slow, but that being said, you're also carrying a lot of speed off a final turn. These drivers had a 3-hour practice session, so I've got to imagine they've all had time to practice that pit entry, and hopefully we shouldn't see too many issues there.
So they take off and work their way through the bus stop chicane into NASCAR 3 and 4. They're going to be released very soon. Doesn't take very long here on this shortened pace lap. Right on board looking at the field ahead up onto the high banking. Not often that sports cars like these get to experience
I
banking
can still
like that.
remember what it was like.
Coming around, and apologies for losing picture momentarily here. We'll try and bring that back in just a bit. In the meantime, we'll give it to you radio style here on the Global Sim Racing channel. They're coming off of NASCAR 4. Jean-Marc Tremblay is leading the field behind the Porsche pace car. Tremblay with Hefner to his outside. Porsche pace car now peels into pit lane. And no way to go. Immediately, Jean-Marc Tremblay accelerates away. Green flag is out here at Daytona. He gets a great jump as they come down into turn 1. Hefner already ahead of Acosta as they break. A few of the cars accordioning together. Still some side-by-side action in much of the pack. I'm not seeing any problems, though. It looks clean for the start here, Sam.
Yeah, all of them getting through turn 1 okay. Now working their way down to the horseshoe. 23 cars and a bit of a lock-up there in the middle of the field. One driver didn't start, Gary Schilling. He actually lost the connection, and one car wide on the horseshoe back there.
Looks like Takeshi Kita, who falls all the way to the back of the field, but otherwise is able to keep going through the western horseshoe now. And soon they'll be out of the infield portion onto the oval. Jean-Marc Tremblay, your leader, ahead of Zach Hefner. Ooh, that Ferrari looks like he's got a good run. Sam, I'm wondering, we'll get a good feeling for the toe right here, but is it going to be enough?
Well, I think you've got to try, Joe. You know, normally in endurance races, you might just sit back in second, but this race is going to be over in a hurry for these guys. Hefner not going to make a move, though. He's happy just sitting in second for now. And they'll work their way through the inner loop. Tremblay leading Hefner, Acosta in third, Mcbeth, and all these drivers got to be careful not to be too liberal with using the grass on the exit of the inner loop there. They can get a slowdown penalty.
Right on board with Hef, and he's getting a very good tow through NASCAR 3 and 4. This time he is going to look to the inside of Jean-Marc Tremblay. Is he going to be followed through, though? Because that's Abner Acosta in that BMW. He's got the inside of our pole sitter, Jean-Marc Tremblay. The Porsche trying to gut it out the long way around, but there's no grip on the track right now. He slots back into third.
Yeah, found a nice little hole there to slide in, otherwise he'd be in trouble. To his help, of course, is the fact that Shawn Mcbeth running behind him as a teammate of his in the green and black number 252 machine, running in fourth position. So we got a new leader, Hefner, leading them around, but still the rest of the field within striking range of him, and let's see if any of them try and make another draft pass when they get back up to the banking.
That's a good point. With Tremblay being demoted those 2 spots, it is now Speedworks 3rd, 4th, and 5th all together. They could maybe use a little bit of team tactics. I think it's Zach Hefner that really needs to maybe sweat a little bit, because last time he was ahead of Abner Acosta at Road Atlanta 1 week ago. Acosta outbraked himself into the chicane and plowed into the back of that gold and white Ferrari. So as they come up to the bus stop for the second time, not going to run into him, thankfully. He's figured out his braking points, following closely behind Zach. And both of them clean off of the chicane on the banking once more.
I think Tremblay's trying to get a run here. You see how he's a lane up. He's not getting the best draft off of Hefner there. It's not exactly getting great gas mileage doing that, but no, he's not going to do a run. In fact, the change for position is for third. Shawn Mcbeth going underneath his teammate. He said, okay, Tremblay, I gave you a break a couple turns ago, but I'm taking third now.
Indeed, the number 252 gets into line by the time they turn into turn 1. Some action behind them as well. Looks like Dzube in 7th place, being hounded by Josh Daniels. In fact, they've got a little bit of train themselves with Broaden and Eisler amongst them.
Yeah, it's really been the clean opening couple of laps, Joe. Haven't really seen any incidents. All 23 cars that took the green flag are still running within striking distance of one another. In fact, 12 seconds covering that whole 23 car field, and no really big movers or big fallers. Really, the biggest gainers have only picked up about 2 or 3 spots right now.
Drivers glad that it's a little bit calm to try and suss out this race, since it will certainly offer some unique opportunities with that drafting. And as we go from above, you can see that they're spreading out significantly this time out of the infield. That's Daniels dropping off of the back of Dzube, and now Broaden, who in his BMW could have maybe taken a look but decides not to. He stays in 9th. Costa had a little look at Hefner though.
Tremblay put a couple of wheels off, exiting the inner loop there, but I don't see him slowing down, so he hasn't got a slowdown penalty from that. In fact, he gets a nice run on his teammate Mcbeth. We've got a battle for third again, Joe. I don't know how much of a battle it'll be between the teammates, but at the very least they'll switch positions. By the way, Gary Schilling did rejoin the survey. He is running 2 laps down in 24th place, but in 3rd place now is Tremblay once again trying to work his way back up towards the front.
We talked about these drivers being on a team. I wonder if they're trying... Whoa! Is a big slide out of the first turn from Jean-Marc Tremblay. Forces him off into the gravel in that short little chicane. He's losing positions, and it looks like Espinosa's going to go by. His other teammate, Lee Peterson, takes a little bit of a look, but finally he stops the bleeding.
I think you were about to say, Joe, are these guys working together to try and keep up with the top 2? And that could be the case, but the problem is that big slide from Tremblay is obviously going to cost them positions, time to the top 2 rather, and Zachary Hefner and Abner Acosta might be able to take advantage of this and try and pull away.
I think we have a replay spooled up of that incident with Tremblay. Let's take a look at what happened here. We'll have to back up just a little bit more. You can see the results of it. Here we go. Perfect view. He looks fine going in. Maybe just greedy on the throttle?
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It was carrying a lot of speed through the turn. Now these cars all have open setups. Maybe he has a little bit less rear wind than these competitors, or maybe he just made a mistake.
Could be. We come back. He's back in 5th now and has to certainly do a lot of work considering he was our pole sitter. Speaking of the front of the field, though, if we could take a look at Hefner and Acosta, they are pulling away from Mcbeth now. It is 0.8 of a second. I have to imagine this is exactly what they want to try and break that draft at this point.
Yeah, but Mcbeth doesn't have to worry about Tremblay this time around. He's just got one job to do on his own right now, and that's try and run down the top 2. If he can get a couple good laps in, he can keep the draft, but if he loses it, that could be all she wrote for his chances of winning the race today, because Hefner and Acosta have been on rails so far, and they're not going to have to deal with a whole lot of lap traffic. All these drivers are running, even the drivers at the tail end of the field, they're only 20 seconds off the leader, and we're coming up 10 minutes into the race already, and the race will be over in another 35 minutes. So these drivers are out there simply racing each other. It's going to be a pure, good old-fashioned sprint race up the front of the field. The bad news for the drivers third on back is the top 2 are starting to break away a little bit, as you said.
Are they going to break away and stay together, or are they going to break away and fight? Acosta's right on the back. Look at that gearbox view. This time he backs off early to stay out of the bumper of Zach Hefner. The 1-2-3 leads him through the bus stop. But despite them not battling, they lost about a 10th or 2 coming into that braking zone.
Something has happened to Manuel Paredes, who was running towards the back of the field. So he's actually our first retirement from the race. But up front here, I'm just keeping a really close eye on it, because this is a really critical point of a race here for Shawn Mcbeth. He's got to try and stay within striking range of the top 2, and I must say he's done it. He's less than a second back of the leaders.
Watching from on board Shawn. Checking to see if I can figure out what exactly happened to Paredes. He just pitted and then decided he'd had enough for the day. Looks like he's actually disconnected, so he is out of the server. We might want to go back to Josh Daniels in 8th position, because Pete Broaden is all over the back of him as they come up to the Western Horseshoe. He loses it through the kink. He was literally underneath the rear wing of that Porsche. Now Christian Eisler, who's been stuck behind these two, has regained because of him slowing up. Onto the oval once more. Eisler trying to get the traction down. You can see him in the Busch Fink car, trailing and up onto the oval. Unfortunately, the two of them losing out to Daniels. He may be slow in the infield, but certainly looks pretty fast up here on the high banking. I wonder if, as Sam said, they've maybe got a little bit of different setup.
Yeah, there's some good battles. They're definitely close. Cars staying within close contact of another all throughout the field, as you mentioned, Joe. No big movers yet, but I have a feeling we'll definitely see some as the race goes on. And, you know, you want to put yourself in good position because this is a sprint race. It's turning out to not be a chaotic race. If you started at the back and you want a good finish, you've got to earn it.
And up at the front, where we've switched the cameras, you could see Acosta once again getting up behind the leader, Zach Hefner, and giving a big lift. This time, though, Shawn Mcbeth has regained all the ground. He is now within about a car length. I'm starting to think that Acosta is playing a little bit of a fuel game.
Yeah, it's possible, but he also just might not want to race with Hefner. He might have seen, hey, if I work with this guy, maybe I can break away from the cars behind. That hasn't worked, though, because Mcbeth has came back in and he's brought with him Espinosa, Tremblay. I mean, to be honest, every driver back within 10th is still within, is still getting a draft off of the car in front. After 10th, we've got about a 5-second gap back to Pablo Valenzuela Uribe in 11th.
Going back to that battle, Uribe being chased by Corey Clark coming onto the banking through NASCAR 1 and 2. Uribe is exactly where he started this race. Same thing with Corey Clark. Both of them kind of just cruising. Let's see if they're working the same way that the leaders are. Or are they a little bit more excitable? And Corey Clark not going to do anything coming towards the bus stop. Weaving their way through, back onto the oval once more. Uribe in that Ford looking very, very solid. Well, the Porsche not exactly moving around that much, not as fast as that red and black machine.
Yeah, I definitely would say most of the action is up front as these drivers fight for the victory in the final race of the season. And as you mentioned, Joe, sometimes at Daytona, especially with our champion, our champion not being in this race today, it opens the door for drivers who might not always be up there fighting for the victory. And especially, you know, the Daytona Roval is a specialty course. Some drivers perform better here than they do at the, you know, your traditional road course per se. And so some drivers may be seeing this as a very strong opportunity for them today to get this victory, the cap off the season. But right now, it looks like the top four are starting to build a bit of a gap on the cars behind. And the sun has just gone behind a cloud, so the track might start cooling down a bit. We'll see if that changes anything.
Yeah, it is 100 degrees on the track surface right now, so it is relatively hot. You can see the conditions. Not too much of a wind, and as is typical for Florida, slightly humid out there, so a little bit more to punch through the air. And speaking of these drivers trying to take advantage of the lack of motoff, I mean, let's talk about those motivations. Hefner hasn't won since Monza. That was quite a few rounds ago, even though he's had pace for much of the season. Abner Acosta, he's not won since Road America, which was about 3 rounds ago, and only one victory despite showing a lot of pace. Then you get back to third place as we watch them come through the tri-oval. Shawn Mcbeth, he's only got 2 wins. He's lost the championship. At this point, he probably wants momentum on his side coming into the next season. He wants to show that he can be a force to take it to
What is Acosta doing? Boy, he keeps poking his nose out. I don't know if he's experimenting here, Joe, just trying to see. Oh, sorry, we've got bigger trouble back in the field.
This was Christian Eisler. Oh, it was big, big problems. Josh Daniels absolutely got plowed into, and Pete Mobroden, wow, did he actually get through this? I think Pete managed to do it. No, he got a little bit of a touch, but you're going to see here, still avoided most of the trouble. That's Eisler in the white and black machine down at the bottom. Completely missed his braking.
Well, in his defence, red and black car in front of him there was a bit slower into the turn, but yeah, you're right, as your responsibility as the car behind to judge your braking off the car in front. And Eisler, you know, he's an experienced driver, but at the same point, you've got to remember you're carrying a lot more speed into that turn than normal with the pass that he just pulled off.
Lots of action exploding all at once. Acosta's lost about 0.8 to Hefner with his mistake up in turn 1. The good news for him is that Mcbeth is not breathing down his neck. He's still about half a second back. That could, of course, change depending on the runs they get onto the oval portion. Looking a little bit behind them, side-by-side action here, Sam.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on this as a battle for 5th place into the turn, and then we'll get back to Acosta, because I want to make a note of what he was doing, but right now, Tremblay, boy, he hasn't had a good race from pole, has he? He started fighting back a little bit ago, but now he's down to 7th. That's the furthest back we have seen him all race. So Leif Peterson up into 6th, Tyler Dazube up into 5th position, and all these drivers now, unfortunately for them, have fallen far back from the top 4, who are still grouped together, even though they got held up a little bit from Acosta's mistake. But yeah, before we caught that moment from Acosta, Joe, he had been... It's almost like he's experimenting with runs. He was just pulling out of a draft on the banking. He was losing the draft. He was taking the longer way around. He was burning fuel. There was really no reason that I could see for him to be driving the way he was. The only thing I can imagine is he was trying to set up runs, trying to time runs, in case he's in a similar position at the end of a race, see what would work on Hefner then. Unfortunately, it almost backfired on him, but he was able to save it.
I think you're right. That's actually a good call. Acosta knows that he's got the pace to stay with him. He's just sizing him up here, it seems. And already, despite the error, he's gotten up to about 0.4 of a second behind Zach Hefner. They come out of NASCAR 4. We are within the pit window. I'm not sure that we'll see any of them take an early stop, though. And once again, that BMW hugging the yellow line, staying right in the toe of the Ferrari, but lifting before they hit the braking zone.
Yeah, really no incentive for these drivers to play strategy games with each other. None of these leaders want to pit and be held up in the slower traffic in the middle of the field. And also in the battles of the middle of the field, because we've got one going on back here. Here you see 3 cars, throw a blanket over them. Who's going to come out on top?
Josh Daniels comes out on top, out of turns 1 and 2. Clark slots in behind in 10th place, and then 11th, that's Pablo Uribe, bit wide, coming off the International Horseshoe. Corey Clark barely holding onto it and keeping it out of the grass. That means that Uribe is now all over the back of him. Is he going to try and make it go? No, he's going to stay in line.
So now everyone's kind of found their bearings, found who they're going to be racing with for the first stint. And like you say, Joe, like we were just mentioning, there's not a whole lot of strategy you can play during this race. The drivers you're racing with now are the drivers you got the beat to the checkered.
Certainly seems to be the case, although we could still get more problems like we had with Eisler, where drivers get into each other, maybe clip the wall, spin, and find themselves farther down the field. It's always worth continuing to fight for these 3, continuing that fight into the bus stop. Nobody poking their nose out quite yet, but a really good run from Corey Clark. Almost gets held up coming out of there, and that actually brings Uribe up into the mix. They're both looking a little bit high. Could we see a 3-wide situation start to develop here? Uribe backs out of it.
Oh, Hefner's gone really wide in the first turn and lost the lead. Acosta has taken the lead of the race.
The second lead change we've seen now. About 20 minutes in. Let's take a look at how this all happened. Looks like just plain old driver error from Zach Hefner. Great job of him just blending right back into the line before Mcbeth could take advantage, though.
Maybe he wanted to do that.
Let him through and ride a little bit behind. I feel like there's less dangerous ways of doing that. Maybe on the banking.
Our camera guru, Dougie Beard, has got the fastest drone in the business there.
Beautiful shots around here. And this train of 4 has spread away from Dzube, who's currently our 5th place driver. Espinoza rides in 4th at the tail of it in the 87. The 252 is our 2nd place championship contender, Shawn Mcbeth, in 3rd position on track. And then Zach Hefner, who recently gave away the lead, trails behind our leader, Acosta, in the number 19 car. We ride on board with Espinoza, watching the top 3.
And they're catching the lap car of Gary Schilling, who had the connection issues right before the race start, which unfortunately has put him down 2 laps. So the drivers won't have to deal, and he's still having connection issues now. The leaders won't have to deal with a whole lot of lap traffic, but that could be an opportunity for drivers such as Espinoza. When they do catch him, he might realize, okay, this is when I've got to try and make something happen. Hefner really getting close to Acosta on the brakes here.
Poked his nose to the inside of the International Horseshoe. Both of them get a decent runoff, even though we can see Hefner right in the tire tracks as they come through the kink. They are just going to catch Schilling possibly at the right time. I think they'll get him on the oval here. It depends on whether or not Schilling pulls out of the way for them. Let's all 4 through. It's a little wide off of turn 6. He pulls down low early. Looks like Acosta's going to manage to get side by side. He's got the momentum. The draft helping Zach Hefner get on through. That looks like a lift. Schilling now dropping back.
Yeah, landing the top 4 by. Hefner did a really good job to use the draft that he could get, though, but still too far back to make anything happen on Acosta here. And I've got to imagine now these drivers have got to be a little bit weary of the space in between each other, because you've got to know when your competitors could be pitting.
Change for position between Daniels and Uribe. Pablo manages to overtake on the banking of NASCAR 1 and 2 and sets his sights on Corey Clark. This has been something of a calmer race than we've seen in the past here in the PRL. Though we've had a little bit of action out there. A lot fewer mistakes and a lot less side-by-side action, which is going to pick up once more because Corey Clark has Uribe and his Ford up on the high side. Can he get the Ford woed up in time? He's trying to work the long way around, but it is not going to work. Clark retains 9th place.
And right behind them, you saw Joshua Daniels come into the pits. He wasn't the first one, but I have a feeling the rest of the field won't be too far behind him. As we mentioned, a narrow pit window here today, and we have gone over the halfway point. A lot of those cars you see in the pits, unfortunately, are cars that have sustained damage early on.
Now, did Kita sustain damage? I've been seeing him in the pits for a while, about 3.5 minutes now.
Yeah, I think he has been involved in an incident because he's been voicing his displeasure on the chat, from what I understand.
Oh! And Vargas loses the car coming into the Western Horseshoe. And in all of that, James LeBlanc misses him about 2 or 3 times as he comes across the track.
Well, those drivers might have been voicing their displeasure about each other if that had ended in tears, and somehow it didn't.
I'd love to get an onboard from LeBlanc. I'm not sure if that was luck or just great heads up from the Fluffy Kitty Ninja driver to manage to avoid all that. And yes, Sam, we have a team named Fluffy Kitty Ninjas in this series.
The ninja part seemed quite appropriate there.
That's a good point.
Dezube and Peterson into the pits. They've been running nose to tail in 6th and 7th. Their pit stalls are practically next to each other. So who will win this battle?
Broaden also comes in behind them. So as a few of the drivers behind them continue on, they're going to slot back in the field.
Now, you've got to imagine, obviously, with such a short race and not exactly the most abusive track on tyres, no one's going to be taking tyres today. Gary Schilling is the lap car getting in the way of Dezube here. He finally gets by without getting held up too much.
And they've all come out in a bit of traffic because Cristobal Valenzuela and LeBlanc, who ahead of them have not stopped, have no obligation to pull over with about 19 minutes left, and they could still go a few more laps if they so desire. Vargas and Peterson. Looks like Peterson has just come out of the pits. Vargas has yet to take his. We saw him have his spin coming into the Western Horseshoe a lap ago. No such problems this time. Back onto the oval. Highest pitter is Dezube currently.
And I want to apologise to Keita. He actually wasn't voicing his displeasure on the chat. He was telling people not to voice their displeasure in the chat, so my apologies there for that. I'll tell you who hasn't pit yet. Our top 4, they are still out there running nose to tail. I've got to imagine they're destined to come in soon.
On screen in the meantime, Valenzuela and LeBlanc duking it out. All the while, Tyler Dezube probably hoping that he hasn't exited the pits into a mess here. He's going to get a nice run out of the bus stop. He's going to get a tow. Let's see if he can use this well. His teammate going up to the high side. He's going to let him through just as Dezube. Oh, and actually LeBlanc is going to come into the pits as well. Dezube uses the run on Valenzuela to take the low side down into turn 1. Does he get it wound up just enough? I think he's got control of it. That moves Dezube up into 9th.
Man, he really forced that hole down on the low side there, but Valenzuela probably didn't even know he was going to be coming underneath. Probably didn't think he left a hole, but Dezube said, yes, he did.
That now leaves Peterson to try and make his way through the traffic that is yet to pit. They come through the kink down into the Western Horseshoe. Watch from Peterson's perspective, a train of 3 cars that he now has to overtake. Oh, and Tremblay took a pit. Why is Jean-Marc in for so long, though? This is not a penalty. Well, he's got big damage. I'm going back to see what in the world caused this. Oh, as we come back to the lead, this was maybe about a minute, maybe just a little bit more than that ago. Jean-Marc Tremblay coming into turn 1, hit the pit exit wall and actually turned the car completely over.
When it doesn't rain, it pours. Unfortunately, definitely not a good race for Tremblay today. Look at these top 4, still nose to tail, and as I say that, we go to a replay here. All right, so we'll go back to live action. Joe, I kind of just took your word for it that the pit window was narrow. These top 4 don't seem to think so.
Well, narrower, I should say, than what we typically have. Usually they get about a half an hour in the 45-minute race, 1/3, you could say. More than that, maybe about 40 minutes in the 45 minutes, 35 minutes, somewhere around there. And so far, they've been using a lot of fuel saving in some cases, such as Acosta riding behind Hefner. That's since switched. I think we found the replay for Tremblay. Trying to pull it up here. Here we go. Now we've got it. You know, this looks embarrassing, Sam, but I can say in my some of my 24 hours of Daytona, I've done this myself. Oof. Oh, that was a hard hit. He's lucky it turned back over. And one of our leaders is in, Acosta pits.
Yeah, Costa coming in. He grabbed my attention there right before the start of a replay because he was blinking a little bit. So now Acosta is in. The rest of the leaders aren't in. So, barring any drama here in these pit stalls, shouldn't take any time. Should just get a splash of fuel, be back out quite quickly, and hopefully we'll still have a 4-car pack battle for the win.
Behind him, Clark and Valenzuela also pitting, and indeed, you were right, Acosta. Just as much of the strategy has been all season. No tires, just fuel. And he's out in 4th place and in clear track. Ooh.
Look how busy pit road is. Which tells me that we're about to see 3 more cars come into the pits, named Hefner, Espinosa, and Mcbeth.
Still waiting on them to enter. They're coming around NASCAR 1 and 2.
Look how much they've spread out this lap. I mean, they were all nose to tail just a couple minutes ago.
It looks like the biggest loser in that is Mcbeth, though. He gains a little bit under braking coming through the bus stop. These 3 and Munoz are the only 4 drivers that still need to take a pit stop. They're coming around towards that pit entry. What's Hefner going to do? He's staying low. And he's in.
They're all coming. Whoa, very late on the brakes there for Mcbeth, but I think he pulled it off.
Yeah, I think he was down to the limiter in time. So what's happening with Acosta? He's ahead of Munoz, the last car needing to pit. Acosta with a 11-second stop. Others have now hit their stall. Hefner in. And it's a little bit of a longer stop for him.
Yeah,
Is that going to be enough?
First.
To the outside, that's the car they're fighting, who's already got his speed up, his tires all heated up. Abner Acosta looks like he's just going to get around in time, and he's going to retake the lead.
Oh, Hefner was close to putting his wheels over the white line there. I hope he doesn't get a penalty for that. But even though Hefner not able to take a lead from Acosta, the key, Joe, is he's still within striking range. Now, the next couple of turns, he's going to have to hold on quite tight because, as you mentioned, his tyres are going to have cooled off a little bit sitting in his pit stall. He's just got to try and hold on to Acosta here. But that being said, Acosta's got to try and pull away. You know, his tyres are warm. He can try and take advantage here, but he's not able to do that. And Hefner is going to have his slipstream going around the oval.
It is essentially a 4-car fight for the victory with 6 seconds back to Zube in 5th place. He is well out of contention unless these 4 all tangle and have a massive accident. Let's hope that we don't get that. 12 minutes left to go. How is this going to shake out? I honestly, Sam, think any of these 4 could be our victor.
Yeah, so now you've got to start thinking of how have they approached today's race. We've seen the mistake from Costa when he was running in 2nd place. We saw a mistake from Hefner when he was running the lead. Andreas Espinosa and Shawn Mcbeth have kind of just been sitting there. We don't really know what they've got yet. Now, as Hefner, he had a nice run on Costa there, but didn't do anything with it. Stayed 2nd.
Could have if he wanted to, but not sure that he would be fully passed by the time they hit the braking here for turn 1. So they stay in the same order that you saw. Acosta leads, Hefner 2nd, Espinosa 3rd, Mcbeth in 4th. Around the International Horseshoe, I get the sense that these drivers are all still pushing for all they're worth, trying to break away, see if they can get a little bit of an easier run to take the win. Down into the Western Horseshoe once again. Hefner just riding behind, looking for the opportunity.
BMW, Ferrari, Porsche, showing you, despite the fact that this track helps out the cars that might be better with, straight line speed, lower downforce settings, we still have a mixture of manufacturers up there battling for the win with these open setups.
Very well balanced, I'd say. Though Hefner just keeps creeping up under that rear wing and drifting back by the time they hit the braking zone. They're going to come back on to NASCAR 3 and 4. You said earlier that it seemed like some of these drivers were maybe sizing each other up, but it was the reverse last time. Acosta coming up behind Hefner. I start to wonder if Zach maybe might do the same here.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll ride on board Zach for a little while here. Well, unless he thinks about making a move, but he doesn't. Yep. One thing that concerns me about Acosta, Joe, is he seems to really be pushing the limits of how much you can get away with cutting the end of the inner loop. He always seems to have a couple of wheels near the grass there, and you know, all it takes is a slight little error. You put 2 wheels over the grass and you get a slowdown penalty, and then your chances of winning will definitely be gone by that point.
I think it's understandable. He is driving a BMW, and that is a big car, so he's going to wind up maybe taking a little bit more room than everybody else. Is that meme dead? Is that no response on that one? Our director liked it, apparently. So, as they come back onto the oval, the Ferrari still giving chase on the BMW.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Let's ride on board Hefner's Ferrari. I'm curious to see what it looks like from Hefner in the inner loop, what Acosta's line looks like.
That's a good point. Let's see. Getting onto the blinders here. Looks good in the first half. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he took a lot of grass there on the left side of the car. And actually, look at all the room that gained him over Hefner.
Yeah, he's doing it very well, but it's a dangerous game to be playing.
Gotta wonder if he's getting any incident points as well. Behind them, the Speedworks team, well, it looked like a battle, but then once it happened, it looked more like Espinosa just let Mcbeth through. Got a little bit of a wide entry, but tucks it down to the apex and gets it going once more. Wow, they are running an incredible pace here, Sam. I'm looking at the gaps. They've dropped to Zube in the few laps since the pit stops by 4 more seconds. That is very fast.
Dzube is running quite comfortably in 5th. He's got about a second over Leif Peterson, and Leif Peterson's even more comfortable over Pete Mobreton, who I don't think we've mentioned a whole lot, in 7th. We mentioned at the top of a race, the start of a race, there hadn't really been a lot of big movers through the field, and now we're finally starting to see some exceptions. Corey Clark has gone 12th to 8th. Tyler Gourmete has gone 16th to 12th. But I think the biggest mover, Joe, has been Cristobal Valenzuela has gone from 22nd to 13th.
That is a fantastic job by Valenzuela. He even got qualifying in, so this is a legitimate charge through the field for the number 33. We're riding on board with him currently. He's not out of the woods yet, though, because that is Lucio Vargas, one of his teammates in the Andes cars, riding behind him. Though Vargas himself has gone from 21st to 14th.
Yeah, and these have all been well-deserved positions that they've had to earn. You know, like it's not a whole lot of attrition out there today, at least not yet. We've still got 6.5 minutes left to go.
22 cars still running. A few of them have had to take repairs. Meanwhile, we jump back up to the front as they close together a little bit more. Here's my question to you, Sam. You're in this train of 4 cars. You know it's down to you 4, that nobody else, there's nobody else you need to worry about. When do you make your move and where?
Well, where you do it is on the banking. You get a nice draft going on and try and beat the car in front of you to the line. And it's really what these drivers are comfortable with as to when they do that. Obviously, if you're Espinosa, if you want to go for the win, you can't wait until the final lap, really. But the problem is, even though Mcbeth and Espinosa have been doing a good job running there in third and fourth, they haven't really tried anything yet. You know, Hefner and Acosta have been experimenting. Now, that's not to say they're not prepared. Maybe they've been dicing a little bit around with runs in practice, seeing what they could do in practice, and, you know, that they haven't shown their full hand yet. So I think it's going to differ for each driver. I mean, you're asking what I would do, and the honest answer, Joe, is I'm not this fast. So my opinion's inaccurate.
Oh, the plight of the commentator. Very few of us are actually good enough to really see this sort of action. But these drivers have certainly proven they know how to wheel a car around Daytona. Only 5 minutes left to go. And you can see, despite the gap that we saw coming onto the oval, as they end the oval portion, Hefner regains it all each and every time. We saw a swap for the third position between Mcbeth and Espinosa. That's the green, and white, and black Speedworks cars that you see in the third and fourth spot. Could this be a sign that maybe Mcbeth has intentions on going for the lead instead of Espinosa? Is Espinosa content to wait behind his teammate, let him have a go at it? Riding on board with Andre.
I'm
Number
trying to
87.
work out
Go ahead.
how nice the clock is going to be to them.
That's a good point. Will it be tight? Will we have an extra
lap?
lap?
It's going to be very tight. They will, in 3 laps, they will cross the line about 5 to 10 seconds after the clock expires. My question is, does iRacing know that, will iRacing be accurate enough to give them the checkered flag when they cross the line there? Or is it going to be off by a few seconds? Because iRacing has to give the white flag.
Exactly. And have any of them taken into account an extra lap of fuel? Have they cut it that tight that they need to worry?
Acosta's, he's on the verge of getting a slowdown penalty with what he's... he can keep getting away with it. He has every right to be driving the way he is, but I just hope he doesn't overdo it. But it takes 3 minutes, 20 seconds to do 2 laps around here, and they're hitting 3 minutes, 20 seconds now on the run down to the tri-oval. So if this was, if this wasn't run by a computer, they'd be getting the white flag the next time by. I don't know if it's too close to call for the iRacing server.
Acosta still leads. There was no move that time from Zach Hefner. So when is he going to try and plan it? And that also throws a bit of a kink into everybody's plans as well, Sam. If you're not sure if it's the last lap or not, do you make the move a lap early just in case, or do you hold back?
Well, the good news is I'm pretty sure the drivers have to get the white flag. So these leaders should know what lap it is. But I think we saw confusion. I can't remember if it was this series or another series we cover here on GSRC, but we had a big confusion at Imola.
I think it was this series, actually. Yeah. Pretty much every series that we've covered that goes by time at some point has had that close moment. Oh, and this time a defensive move.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel safe.
Expected.
He came back to the racing line. All of them cleanly through. Still nobody making any attempts. The only change for position we've seen since the pit stops has been what looked like an orchestrated move between Mcbeth and Espinosa.
All right, so are they getting the white flag?
Oh, and he's going for it. Zach Hefner thinks now is the time to move. He goes to the high side, coming down into turn 1, tries to outbrake him, and he loses it. He runs into the corner, gets clipped, but only one of the cars gets turned around. It is Abner Acosta. Hefner gets a little bit of a break as Mcbeth and Espinosa get through.
Yeah, Hefner's got a nice gap over Mcbeth and Espinosa there. Acosta gets re-going in 4th place, but obviously he won't be happy about that, although it's he was the one who drove into the wall.
I think Acosta's damaged because he looks like he's limping. Let's watch the replay to see if we can assess just how much he got from that. And what poetic irony that this time it was Acosta who unfortunately loses out from bad braking. Oof.
Oh yeah, that was all him. I was wondering if Hefner had squeezed him, but no, that wasn't the case. He completely lost it under braking.
Watching it from above one last time. And we got to get back live here because we're not sure how many laps we have left. Acosta's losing ground to DeZube just as Hefner is coming through NASCAR 3 and 4. And the white flag comes out. Last lap, it took an outside pass and a daring move. He did get a little bit of contact, but the 1-2-3 car is going to take his second victory of the season at another high-speed course.
Oh, is he out of fuel?
It was close, but I think Mcbeth in second, Espinoza in third, and Acosta is going to be able to get to the line before DeZube, but he loses out on victory.
I don't know if Hefner was doing that just to be dramatic. He slowed right down before they got to the checkered flag.
He's still rolling. I think that was just a dramatic move, so I think Hefner's good enough. Meanwhile, Corey Clark comes across in 8th position, just ahead of Uribe. And Muno's going to be in a tight battle.
Yeah, 16th place is quite a scrap, and as you mentioned, 10th, 11th, 12th positions here.
Oh, it was a good scrap, but LeBlanc was much stronger coming through the bus stop. Richter loses out big time, even though he's going to get some draft. I think he is not nearly close enough to try and take this away from the 007.
Yes, the battle for 16th and 17th will end up going in James LeBlanc's favor.
It's the last battle that we've got. Trungale follows them home as the last car on the lead lap. We'll come back after a short break on screen. You're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Then that will be followed by the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around.
The first time I stepped into a race car. The sound of the engine, the anticipation. But I never could have imagined where this journey would take me. My father once told me that racing is just like life. You have to stay on your toes because you never know what's around the next corner. Bill Watson, and this is my story.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We just watched the last round of the season for the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. And though we didn't have Modoff here to take his so-called victory lap, we did have a great fight for the lead. And Zach Hefner, who came in partway through the season, seems to really like these draft tracks. He won at Monza, and he wins at Daytona. Shawn Mcbeth couldn't make it a hat trick of wins at the end of the season, but he ends with 2 wins at the previous 2 rounds and a second place. Here, he leads Andre Espinoza to the line. His teammate finishes off the podium, Abner Acosta. He was trying to hold on to another victory, fighting with Zach Hefner, but just lost it under braking in turn 1 on the final lap, and finishes in 4th, limping home ahead of 5th place Tyler DeZube. A quiet run for DeZube to take that P5. Leif Peterson going from 6th to 6th, a bit anonymous, but still a good effort. Pete Mobrotten finishes 7th, with Corey Clark finishing 8th behind him. Pablo Uribe gets 9th, and Josh Daniels winds up going down and finishing 10th.
Starting page number 2 in 11th place is Rodrigo Munoz ahead of Tyler Grulamete. Lucio Almonacid Vargas will be ranked in 13th position ahead of Cristobal Valenzuela, one of our biggest movers in the field from 22nd to 14th. Actually, Vargas as well from 21st to 13th. To 13th. Hugo Galaz comes home in 15th position ahead of James LeBlanc, who got 16th place from Mike Richer on the final lap. Joey Trungale is our last lead lap finisher in 18th position. Then we get to the cars that had trouble. Takeshi Kita, Gary Schilling, who had the connection issue at the top of the race. And then on our last page here in 21st position is Kenneth Rodriguez ahead of Christian Eisler. Jean-Marc Tremblay, our pole sitter, which was one good thing he could say about today's race. And Manuel Pardes rounds out our 24-car field.
And at the top of that 24-car field was Zach Hefner, taking win number 2 of the season. Zach, we watched you kind of waiting behind after you lost the lead behind Acosta, and it seemed like you were sizing him up. Then suddenly you came to the line up with about the white flag waving, and it suddenly, did you notice that Acosta was losing it inside you, or were you surprised when suddenly you got a touch?
I was very surprised what happened. I looked in the rear view and I saw his car go sideways. I wasn't really sure what happened. I knew we didn't make contact. I felt like we had plenty of room, and I thought he collected everybody behind him either. I kept on asking the guys, everybody all right back there? What's going on?
Yeah, it certainly was wild, especially after how calm you four had been post pit stop. But at the start of the race, you were leading for a little bit of a while. You were behind the leader for a little bit of a while, just riding behind Acosta. Were you trying to fuel save a little bit there?
Yeah, so it's tough at these draft tracks. Like when you're out in front that long, you kind of got to make a decision. Well, am I going to stick it out up front and just try to, go my fastest, especially when the pit stops come around? Or do I take my chances, let the guy behind kind of lead for a good amount of laps, fuel save yourself? That way you can come out kind of equal. Kind of a slight science behind it, really.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. And the other thing that we noted is that your last win was at a similar track at Monza, which is a lot of high speeds and tends to have draft trains. Do you consider yourself a specialist at these type of tracks?
I seem to favor them, I guess. Yeah, I'm good at Spa too, which seems to be a draft track kind of in between a twisty track. So it's kind of got that, favoring towards the drafting too. And I have a car that favors the draft track with the 488. So, yeah, I like them. I don't mind. I love Daytona. I think it's a great track.
I have fun too here. You've racked up a number of podiums with only a partial effort. Will you be back for a full season next season?
Yeah, I think so. I think I made a decision today. I put my application in, so I think I'll be back with the teammate next season for the new team.
Looking forward to it. Congratulations for the victory, and look forward to seeing you back in a couple weeks' time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Zach Hefner, your winner today. And then Sam is going to be talking to Shawn Mcbeth, runner-up in the championship and runner-up on track.
Yeah, Shawn, I'm sure in both of those standings you would have liked to have been one position higher, but how do you call this race and the season as a whole? I know you probably didn't get the goal you were after, but there's still some good takeaways from it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's been a great season. It's been a lot of fun racing. Tough competition, man, really tough, which makes it all the more fun. But for my first time running with these guys, I'd say second overall is pretty good.
Now, obviously, your chance for the win today was kind of taken away when you had to slow down from the spinning car of Acosta there with on the final lap, essentially. If that hadn't happened, did you have a plan to get up front and win this race? Because we really didn't see you making a whole lot of moves throughout the event.
Yeah, I would have, if I was close enough, I would have gone for it for sure. But in the end, my whole goal was to finish the race, because if I did that, it pretty much solidified the team championship for myself and my teammate. So that was my main goal, just finish as best I can, and it all worked out.
Yeah, it did all work out, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, your first season, you came home with second. Obviously, I can ask you what your goal is for the next season, but I have a feeling I know the answer.
I'm sure you do. Next season, we're going for it, man. We're gonna try and get it. I finally clicked on something about halfway through the season. It was a little too late to do it this round, but yeah, next season we'll go at it just as hard as we did this time, and hope for a better result.
All right, and the last thing I'll say, because I'm British, so I've got to say it. Do people let you into theatres with your last name?
No, but people say I have a cool last name, and they always think, "Oh, the play." Yep, one letter short of it.
Yeah, all right. Well, congrats on a solid first season with these guys, Shawn. We look forward to seeing you back next year, seeing what you can do.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks for the stream. Want to throw a huge shout out to the team. Those guys are a big support, and they make all this so much more fun and more interesting and a lot easier. So huge shout out to those guys. Shout out to you guys as well. Thanks for streaming this and broadcasting it and all that. And we'll see you guys next time.
That was second place finisher Shawn Mcbeth. Sam, you missed out on all the Mcbeth puns we had earlier in the season. We exhausted most of them. But in the meantime, we've got third place finisher and teammate on that Speedworks team. They are fighting for the team championship, Andre Espinoza. And that brings me to a good point, Andre. We saw at one point towards the end of the race, it looked like you intentionally handed third place over to Shawn Mcbeth. Was that due to the team championship, to giving him that spot?
Obviously, it's part of the teamwork we do at SRT. Yeah, I mean, he was quicker. We got a better chance of not losing the draft to Abner and Zach if he was in front. So, yeah, that was a good decision. I won't regret it, and just happy to get third.
Obviously, Carl Modoff has been the one to beat for a couple seasons now. He wasn't as dominant this time around. Do you guys, as the Speedworks team, are you actually intentionally going to try and work together to see if you can get one over on him next season, to see if you can finally stop this dominance that he's had? Or is it more kind of a for fun thing like Shawn was talking about, where you guys just enjoy being with each other?
Absolutely. I think the motto of the team is just having fun with each other. But yeah, definitely we work together during the week at practice sessions, and as a SRT eSports, we do great at that. So yeah, definitely we'll bring a fight. We obviously race for each one individually, but we always are respectful and super friendly with each other as teammates.
Last question before I let you go. Next season is being planned still. If there was one track you'd like to see on the schedule next season that you don't think you've seen yet here in the PRL GTE series, what would you want?
People are going to laugh, but I love Bathurst.
Ah. Our director likes that one, apparently. So that would put on an exciting race for us. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you guys try that one out in the GTE cars because we've seen it in the Radicals. But congratulations on a third place and look forward to seeing you come back.
You too, guys. I just want to thank the organizers, you guys for broadcasting, and SRT Esports for all the support, and hope to see you guys next.
That was our third place finisher, Andre Espinoza. And I just got confirmation that they will be extending to 60 minutes next season. So it's going to be longer races, even more fun for our viewers to watch each week at a time. But we got to thank a few people before we go, including our sponsors. Of course, SIMMSA, once again, for a full second season of sponsorship. Make sure and check them out at SIMMSA.net if you want to see what the Simulation Motorsports Association can do for you. Also, a big thank you to Frazier and Deeter. If you want their services financially, you can check them out at FrazierDeeter.com. Also, a thanks goes out to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing eSports network here for the PRL. Go to their YouTube page, click on the big red button that says subscribe, and make sure you get all of the PRL in that YouTube feed of yours. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Shawn, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. I can tell you that even though we don't have the official track up yet for next season, we are scheduled to broadcast the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. We have been in talks, and there is an agreement in place. We're just waiting on all the locations to be solidified. But we also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, see you on the track.